Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It is Monday today. Usually you see me on a Sunday, but yesterday, rather than me going over to my mum and dad's house to have Sunday lunch and use their fantastic broadband to upload my videos, they actually came to my house. So I was host, and unfortunately I didn't finish the book I've been reading in time to be able to do this video. So right now it is Monday lunchtime, and I am here filming my review. My hair is deciding to be absolutely crazy. It's Monday, I can't decide if it's curly, wavy, I don't know, my hair is just irritating the heck out of me today, and it's raining and it's dull and everything, so in order for you to actually be able to see me I've had to turn on the lights in the middle of the day, so it's a bit of a crazy day. So you haven't seen me for a couple of weeks, and the main reason is because of Endeavour. I have fallen like head over heels. Oh my god, I can't believe I've had this entity missing from my life, in love with a TV show. So basically, if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, when I was growing up, me and my sister, my dad loved Inspector Morse, and so Inspector Morse was just a show that was just kind of in our lives, and he still loves it to this day, and I do too. And about 10 years ago, a one-off TV event was happening called Endeavour, which was a prequel to Inspector Morse. Inspector Morse is from like the 90s going into the 2000s, and went on for 12 series with the amazing John Thor playing Inspector Morse, and it finished I think 2001 or 2000, and then he passed away in 2002. And this is Inspector Morse when he's first joining the force to start his career to become an investigator and an inspector, and so it's set in the 60s and going into the 70s, and yeah, it was meant to just be a one-off thing, and then they did the one-off thing and people lost their minds. Fans of Inspector Morse lost their minds about how good it was, and it got like 10 million views or something, and ITV went, oh, let's play with this. So they decided to commission a series. Flash forward to a month ago, the 9th series aired, and it was the very last series, and my dad was just telling me all these details about the final series and how amazing it was, and I was like, you know what, now that it's all there, because I like to binge watch stuff, so I like, a good chunk of series if possible before I start watching it. It just happened that it was finishing. I watched that one-off episode and then all 9 series in 10 days. And just to put it in perspective, each episode is 2 hours. There's around 3 or 4 episodes per series, apart from series 5, which has 6. So it's not like it's 2 hours per episode and there's 20 episodes in a series. No, nothing like that. The writing is incredible. Sean, who plays Morse, is just Sean Evans. How have I not known him before? He's so good an actor, and so yeah, I've fallen head over heels in love, so much so that when it's payday on Friday, I'm buying the box set. So yeah, I'm very excited. So because of that, all of that time, you can imagine, 2 hours per episode, 9 series of it, and the one-off event that launched it all. I just hadn't really been reading over those 10 days, so I've only in a very short, a matter of maybe 3 or 4 days, gotten through the first Cazalet book, called The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard, and here I am reviewing it. So, in case you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, The Cazalets is a series of 5 books written by Elizabeth Jane Howard. She wrote 4 of them between, I think, 1990 and 96, 97 or something, 98, something like that. And then she left them for like over a decade and then came back with book 5. So yeah, so it's quite an interesting range of time between the different books. But basically, the Cazalets is about the Cazalet family, and every summer all of the family get together to spend the entire summer together. So there are 4 siblings of the main Cazalet siblings. So you've got Hugh, Edward, Rupert, and Rachel. And they all have their own, marriages, children, etc. Their own lives. They're spread out all over the place. But every summer, all the family members, every generation get together to spend the entire summer together. And this first book covers the first 2 summers, which is 1937 and 1938. So it's 2 massive chapters. Not only, obviously, do you have all of those family members, you have all their servants as well. So you have a lot of people that you are keeping track of throughout the course of this book. So much so, I will tally off the names, right? So this is the Cazalets family and their servants who you meet throughout the course of the book. And obviously, this is just friends, family and servants. This doesn't include friends or work colleagues or anything like that who you also meet, or people that characters just happen to meet or bump into or interact with. And so we have William, Kitty, Rachel, Hugh, Sybil, Polly, Simon, William, Edward, Viola, Louise, Teddy, Lydia, Rupert, Zoe, Isabel, Clarissa, or Clary as she goes by constantly, Neville, Jessica, Raymond, Angela, Christopher, Nora, Judy, Mrs. Cripps, Eileen, Peggy, Bertha, Dottie, Tonbridge, McAlphin, Wren, Billy, Nanny, Ing, Emily, Phyllis, Edna, Nanny, Eddie, and Ellen. So all of them you're keeping track of through this book, plus any people that they happen to interact with, like friends, colleagues, other interactions, like doctors or whatever. So yeah, there is a lot of characters that you have to keep track on in this book. Now, as I said, there are 5 books, and each book covers a section of time and goes through the various social events. This is 1937 and 1938, so very much the rumblings of Second World War are starting to happen. And so in the second book, when we're going to be going into 1939, 1940, 41, it's going to become obviously extremely prominent thing. So you could, in a way, and I totally get this argument, argue that not much happens in this book because we're just hanging out with this family for a couple of summers. I get the argument. But at the same time, this book, the steps that the characters take and their positions on things and understanding their interactions, their likes, their dislikes, is going to be very important for later down the line. So I totally understand, yeah, if someone picks this up and goes, well, there's not much action in this, there's not much things going on. But at the same time, lots of people are running around because there's so many people interacting, doing various things. Obviously, we've got all of the children and them growing up and such. So, for example, one of the children is actually born in this book, and another one of the children turns 15 in this book. So, there's the children really do range in their ages, and so their wants, their needs, their attitudes to things are very interesting. And obviously some of these children we know are about to go into a war when they have either no concept of what war is, or it's going to be because of the certain age that they are that it's going to really impact them. It's going to possibly shape them, and see how you can understand how they develop as adults. And I think it is that thing, because we talk, it's often referred to the attitudes of like like the war generation, like, you know, like you could say the late Queen Elizabeth, that thing of you get shit done, you do what you need to do, head down, do it, just, you know. And yeah, I can understand, because I already know the story of the Cazalets because of the BBC radio play, which I just realised I've gone and left upstairs before I hit record on this. So I will hold up the CDs next time when I do a review. I knew the story already, but it has been quite a while since I last listened to it, so I can't remember exactly certain things that happen. But there there are certain choices and things that characters do now, and having spent time with them in the first book, even if they're very young or they're quite young, knowing what they are going to go on to do, it makes sense to me in my head that that is the choice that they made because of the impressions of war and such that happen to them when they are young. And there's very interesting elements as well, because if you think about it, the First World War was only about 30 years before the Second World War. So it's very interesting when you get the adults' perspective when they're talking about the brewing of a Second World War. Especially, there is a character, Hugh, one of the Cazalet children, as it were, the grown-ups, but they're still, the children of the matriarchs, the matriarchs of the family. Hugh was actually at a battle in France in the First World War, and so he still has problems dealing with that. And so when people are talking about a new war coming, he's having almost like PTSD sort of memories about it. And the prospect of, well, is it possible, if this war does come about, it could go on for a long time? Could my children get caught in it? Could I get caught in it? How is this going to change everything? Bless him. He's still not dealing with that. But obviously this is the 1930s, or in a time when therapy and such was not a thing. It was, you put up with what you got, sort of situations. Like, he has no one to turn to, no one to talk to, really. Obviously his family, but to actually get therapy, get help for what he's been through, he doesn't have that. So to see him in this book trying to cope, but also trying not to panic at the thought of another war coming, it was really quite interesting and poignant to read with him. So then you've got Edward. He he went through the war. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't involved in anything very serious and that, but he is more worried about business, how business is going to be affected by another war, and making sure the family business carries on. And he has business at the forefront of his mind. Obviously he cares about if a war is going to happen and everything, but he's not worried about going back into a war as a soldier. He's more worried about making sure that the family still have money. So yeah, he's very business orientated as Edward, and his relationship with his family is quite an interesting one. And yeah, his wife, Villy, she Villy was a dancer. She very much, had this idea of her life of, being a dancer and being well known and having this tremendous life. And now she's caught in a marriage where, to her, she's just a wife and mother, and she's quite bored. And the way they play off each other, because obviously she is in a way a kind of trophy wife, It's very interesting to see how she feels about her position in the house, in the family in general, and she finds family occasions rather tough. So getting all these adults together with all of these children to spend 2 months together, 2 or 3 months together, solidly just with those people, she finds incredibly straining. So yeah, I quite like her. Oh gosh, yeah. And then Rupert the third Cazalet brother, who's the painter, he's the artist, he's the one who well, it's a bit weird. He's a painter, but he doesn't paint. He's a talented painter, but he's got no inspiration. And he was married and he had 2 children with his wife, and his wife passed away, and now he's got the second marriage to Zoe, and Zoe is a lot younger. She wants excitement. She gets frustrated around the children from time to time. Not frustrated as in angry. She's like, oh, for God's sake, just, oh, can we not have a tantrum? Oh, can we not have, someone being sick? I just want to have fun. I just want to spend some time on the beach and just breathe and just be on my own for a while. So Rupert has this thing. I think it was because with his first wife, they had a very comfortable marriage and such, and so he had, and his 2 children, he had this very lovely relationship, and so he had the inspiration to paint. But now, having lost his first wife, he lost his inspiration, and I think perhaps he probably saw Zoe because he fell in love with her beauty and her youth and such, that perhaps that would trigger his inspiration again, and it just hasn't. And Zoe loves her husband. It's just she's caught in that thing of, I want to go out and experience the world because I am, in my 20s, I'm young, I want to go out and explore, but I also want this man who's very much stay at home, look after the kids, kind of thing. So where the boundaries of my life have completely shifted, and what does that mean for me? Zoe's a very interesting character, and her path through the Cazalets is very, very interesting one. So I'm not gonna say too much about specific things that happen, because this is book 1 of 5, and as I said, it's very easy to look at this and go, not much actually happens in this book. Yeah, I get that. It's 2 summers with a family who are all stuck in a house together. There's there's a lot of things like the girls, Louise and Clary and Polly, and that playing with cats, and the boys terrorizing them and stuff like this, but there's also some really poignant stuff going on. Oh my god, I just realized I didn't mention Rachel. How very bad. So Rachel is the sibling. I find Rachel very interesting. Very interesting. So Rachel is the unmarried sibling Cazalet kid. She's gay. She lives in London with her partner, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. They see them as good friends who live together, and her parents are frustrated by her choices in that, why can't you find a nice man and all this lot? And she's like, no, I want my independence. I want to just have a life for me. And she completely broke the family convention, because it's kind of like, almost, you could say, almost like the Forsyte Saga family structure, in that tradition is kind of a key thing. So all the kids who got married and then went on to have kids all did so at pretty similar time, and made sure they got into the family business, and keep the name going, all that jazz. But Rachel defies it. And she goes, no, I'm not interested in that. She does come together for family events, like the summer or like Christmas. But other than that, she is off in London doing her own thing. And her relationship with her partner Sid is, I really like the two of them. They're just, they're really nice together. They suit each other. And so as things go on, I'm really intrigued to see how Elizabeth expands on their story and such, from what I know from the radio play. Now, as I said, there are a lot of characters running around in this book. There are a lot of people to keep track on. So having two just literally massive chapters, which are the two summers, it totally makes sense for the structure that Elizabeth has chosen to write this book. And it does help you just completely distinguish the one from the other. I didn't necessarily need all of the servant stuff. And I say that especially because the Cazalet BBC radio plays, that I know well, and the Cazalet drama that the BBC did, the servants aren't really involved, or if they are, it's only like a sweeping thing, like one of them goes off to get a doctor or something, like that. It's just, they're not really an entity. So to actually begin this book, we follow one of the servants getting ready for the day, how they wash, how they dress, what their routine is, when they get breakfast, all of those kind of steps. And then it expands out into the wider family, because it's the preparing the house in order for the family to come together for the summer. So I can understand, using it from the servants as the first people who get up in the day to talk about the house, the layout, all of that. But when it comes to the actual bulk of the story, they're not really needed. So I could have done without those bits, but I don't know if they're going to be a thing later on, if you see what I mean. If the Cazalet line that we're following over 30 years or more, if we're going to be following the servants for those 30 years or more as well, and if that is important, and if so, I'm quite intrigued to know why. Because the BBC radio and the TV drama didn't really involve them whatsoever, so we shall see. She does write very well, and I'm just going to read a little tiny bit just to give you an idea of her writing with this. So Coden really wasn't the best beach for children, Villy thought, as she shifted her bottom on the boulderless pebbles and tried to find a more comfortable bit of breakwater for her back. Even on such a calm, blazing day, the sea was surprisingly cold, a steely blue far out, but near them an aquamarine swell that heaved endlessly and broke upon the steeply shelving shore in a creamy fringe that soothed and melted to green again and was sucked out beneath the next wave. The boys were all right. They were good at swimming for school, but the girls were afraid of going out of their depths, hobbling over the pebbles, wading a few steps, swam 2 or 3 strokes again and again until she made them come in, teeth chattering, cold and slippery as fishes, to get their backs rubbed, and to be given pieces of Terry's bitter chocolate or hot bovril. So that poetic motion, talking about the waves and the colours and such, and then seeing these little children playing around and then getting together to out of the cold water to have hot bovril and chocolate. It's just, there's something very precious about that, and something very beautiful and poetic. And as I was reading along, I came to this realization that it's emphasizing that everyday things, or the little snapshots like that, are so important, because we are going to be going into war in the next book, and it's the memories and such of a time, this little bubble of time before everything changed, And the thing about the loss of innocence, especially around children, when you have a situation of war happen. I found that very interesting, the concept of the bubble bursting, of the realities of what's going on in the world for these children. And so, yeah, then the structure made even more sense to me, that we had just sat in this house with these two family, with this one family for these 2 summers, and just absorbing all of these little things that they do, because the next time they get together, nothing is going to be the same. So yeah, it was very interesting, and there's a lightness to it, but at the same time there's kind of this weighting, like for example, like on the beach, you had the children playing in that, but you still had the thing of the cold water, the waves crashing, and you can feel like heavy grey clouds in the sky, but it's not raining yet. It's the storm clouds that are coming in over the horizon and such, which is obviously the threat of war, and that's going to catch up with them at some point. But as to when, we don't know. So yeah, I found this it's quite evocative piece of writing. But there's something, this underlying darkness of a threat, an upcoming threat, I think was very, very interesting. And when you listen to the BBC radio play, if you do get to it, I will include the link from Audible in the description below. The music, the original music composed for it, listen to that music, and it's constantly lingering, and there's something about this light kind of, it makes me think of like raindrops just dripping, with the notes, with the piano keys and such, and there's a beauty to it, but there's an incredible sadness to it at the same time. If you listen to that music, it really, for me, captures that underlying tone that sits in the background of this book. So yeah, hats off to whoever did the music composition for this drama, because yeah, I really was impressed by that. So that's all I've got in my mind at the moment. I don't want to necessarily like talk too much in depth about this, because this is a first of 5 books, and I'm probably going to then be saying the same thing over and over and over again through the rest of the series, if I were to go more in depth. But for an introduction to so many characters, to capture the underlying tone of a threat that is coming, and understand everyone's perspective, even the children, of what is coming, I thought Elizabeth Jane Howard did an amazing job. I have to say, it has a grace and a wondrous, beautiful tone to it that is also hinged with such sadness. I was thoroughly impressed by it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say. As I said, I don't want to say more and then find myself saying the same thing as the books go along. But yeah, those are my thoughts at the moment on The Light Years, the first book in the Cazalet collection by Elizabeth Jane Howard. So, time to ask my usual questions. Would I read this again? Yes, but obviously I'd want to read it after I finish the rest of the Cazalet books. Would I recommend this to anyone? I think, yeah. I mean, no, did I get these books before or after the Forsyte Saga? I can't remember. It was a while ago since I got them. But I think if I knew someone who liked things like the Forsyte Saga and such, and wanted like a really decent story about a family with so many different elements that isn't too weighty, I would say, yeah, give the light years a go from the Cazalets. Obviously, I might prefer another book as I go through them. I don't know. But yeah, which I would say more prominently, this is the best one. But for now, because I've only read one, yeah, if someone was interested in having a light yet somewhat weighted family saga story, I'd recommend this book, definitely. Would you read any more Elizabeth Jane Howard's work? Yeah, definitely. And obviously I'm reading the rest of the Cazalets, so I'm going to see how I go with the rest of the Cazalets and then decide if I want to read any more of her books when I'm done. Okay, so those are my thoughts on The Light Years, the first of the Cazalet books by Elizabeth Jane Howard. If you read this book, I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comment box below. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, entirely to you decide. And I'll be back with my thoughts on the next Cazalet book as soon as I'm done, which is Marking Time. And I can tell you from the contents that we start in September 1939 and end in the autumn winter of 1941. So yeah, so just over a year after this first book ends is when this second one begins. So yeah, that'll be really interesting. And I'm not going to talk about the BBC drama, the TV drama, because the actual drama covers the first two books. So I think it's better if I talk about the drama after I finish the second book and say, okay, I can now tell you how faithful this is to both books and such. So I'm deliberately waiting until I finish the second book to talk about the TV drama, but I will. But in the meantime, if you want to check out the radio drama, as I said, I'll include an Audible link below. I love it. I think it's great. So check it out. And yeah, I'll be back with my thoughts when I've finished Marking Time. All right, then, guys. Bye.